We breaking the code, empower stories, let the truth unfold. Master your life, let your purpose shine. Together we'll rise, it's your time to climb. Welcome to the journey, where it's time to ignite. With Coach Amber J, we'll reach a new, so get ready. Let's elevate, unlocking those keys, it's never too late. You're feeling good and looking right. With Coach Amber J, guaranteed to shine bright. Get ready.
You are the master key. Let's get started. Hey, you guys, it is yours truly, Coach Amber J, and it is Key Talk. I am your host, again, Coach Amber J, CEO, life coach, wardrobe expert here on Key Talk, where we're all about unlocking those keys to a successful work-life balance so that you have more fulfillment without burnout, all while doing it, looking and feeling your best. Today, we are diving into a transformative topic, keys to rebirth, your rebirth, navigating life after devastation. So make sure you grab a pen, come join in. Don't just hop in, stay in the live, because we are going to drop some major keys for you today and share with you how you can overcome devastation. I have an amazing key guest today, you guys. You guys are in for a treat. We are here with Shamika Green.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to read your bio because it was phenomenal to me, okay? So I want to give you all your accolades and praises. Shamika is an international award-winning, best-selling author, a motivational speaker, and a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's also the founder of Emma's House, a nonprofit organization dedicating to empowering minority girls and children of incarcerated parents. With her extensive background in mental health and her passion for helping others, she's here to share her insights on decluttering not just our spaces, but our minds and our lives. So grab a cozy drink and get ready. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. One more thing. She's also she's promoting her 13th book.
Literally.
Mind blown right now.
I didn't feel it till you said it, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes, she has written and published 12 books.
Yes.
Girl, let me give you your flowers. You deserve them. Yes. So welcome. Tell people who you are.
Okay, so like you said, first of all, you did such a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Like, who is she? But I do have a private practice. I'm a marriage and family therapist.
Okay.
So I'm licensed in Nevada as well as Michigan.
Wow.
Right. I specialize in grief and trauma and healing your inner child. So for me, it's so personal because I went through my own trauma.
Okay.
So it hits different.
Yes,
so
I understand
professionally and personally.
Right.
I have a publishing company / media company called Beauty from Ashes Media, where I help women rewrite and tell their story.
Listen, I need book number 2.
Yes.
Book number 2.
Let's get ready.
Yes.
Let's get ready.
That's so phenomenal.
Yes. So that, in addition to the books, oh my gosh, like everything is like purpose driven. So even with the books, it still plays a part in my life. Right. So books on grief, books on trauma, fatherless women. I was one by default because my father was murdered. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. So lots of stuff that happened.
Yeah.
So I kind of took it and I just like, okay, well, what can I do to use this to just come out of it, but also empower other women too, right?
That's powerful because I'm definitely big on living in purpose. And in order to really have purpose birth, it's usually birthed through pain.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and so to be able to take that pain and turn it into purpose, but not selfishly, but to take that pain and then transmute it to other people to give them hope. Like,
yes, that's so big,
powerful.
Because it's never really about you just all the time. It's like, I want to help the woman on the other side of the door too.
Yes.
So when you look at me, you could be like, oh, this girl is from Detroit, from the hardcore city of Detroit. She done been through some stuff.
Yes.
Right? Like, but yet here she is. She has her own practice, but she went through her own healing journey. Right?
Wait, but you don't look like what you've been through.
Oh my God. That's where I give God the glory.
Yes,
like, sometimes it's like, behind the scenes, you're like, weeping, crying, trying to really get up again. But then it's like, he's like, every day is a new day.
Yes. And something I say too is a lot of things, it doesn't happen to us, it happens for us.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that saying when you're in the midst of the hell. You're like, I'm on fire right now. What do you mean? Right? Like, how is this gonna work for me?
Right.
But then it's times like this. So then when you meet women like you've been through, I mean, to have your father murdered, how old were you?
So my father was murdered when I was 2.
Wow.
My mother went to prison when I was 7.
Oh, man.
So during that time, I went from family member to family member. I experienced sexual abuse, physical abuse. Yeah. And then by the time I was like a teenager in high school, my boyfriend was murdered.
Wow.
Yes. Talk about some serious trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then by the time I was 16, I was living on my own and raising my sister, who's 6 years younger than me.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So you've definitely been through the trenches.
Yes, literally through the fire. I always say Daniel 3:22. You know, like you go through the fire, you come out and you don't look like what you've been through.
Right.
But, I've been
through
it.
And then not only that, like to not have a mother or a father that you can get to go to anything with, right? Like, and then family members. And of course, I'm sure when they're not treating you like their own child, right? Like you might just be a check to someone, right?
And exactly, sure was.
Wow.
You know, you're not getting that same treat. It's not your home.
It's not your home.
It's not your home.
Wow.
You feel displaced.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like some point you're trying to find your footing. Where do I belong?
Yeah.
You know, where do I belong? Where am I
going? That feeling. Yeah.
And everything looks bleak, especially like a girl from the inner city. Like it looks bleak. Like you're not gonna make it.
So tell us, like a girl coming from that, where did the vision come from? Like, how did you be in this space and probably never see anything that looks like where you are now? How did you create that for yourself?
Okay. So I think first things first for me, I always knew something was different about me, but didn't know what though.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I was in it. But yet I went to like Catholic school all my life. So I seen different stuff.
Okay.
So my mother still was able to like orchestrate things where I could see things differently.
Okay.
But I still was in the city.
Right.
So it was tough. You know, like I was rough.
You was exposed to a lot of that. Yeah.
I mean, exposed to a lot. I think, how old was I? Like maybe 18, 19. I got arrested. I was pregnant. My first child. Like some serious stuff
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. But in the middle of that, I was going to school. I was going to school for my undergraduate degree. Wow. Like I still was trying.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
like something. Like,
so do you think having that exposure like to Catholic school, and I'm sure that's a different demographic than what you were raised with, was like a blink of like, okay, there is another way.
There's something different.
Right.
And by the time that I was in undergraduate school, it was one of my professors. Her name was Dr. Alicia Ferris, Black woman. She had her PhD. Okay. And so she was one of those that I was like, like she got it going on. Like, I want to be like Dr. Ferris, you know? Yes. So I think she really did play a part. That's and so awesome. I would go volunteer under her. And I was like, man, I want to be like her.
And, you know, sometimes we just need that one person just even if it's a glimpse. And this is why women in this season, in this hour, we need you to rise up. Your voice is important. Your story is important. There's someone watching that you may or may not ever know, that because you showed up, they have hope. They are like, oh, I can make it out of this. Right. You know, because even for myself, I grew up by my father, but where I grew up, I never felt like it was for me. I didn't see people doing anything what I'm doing. I'm the first to be an entrepreneur, to step out and just make a difference.
Ooh, the trailblazer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I know I didn't have anyone. And for me, it was someone that I seen on my job. And I was like, oh, I could be like, it's okay to want nice, fancy things, and it's okay to want to have more for yourself. Okay. And so we need you, women. Like I say that because I know in this last year for me, there was a lot of loss, a lot of grief, devastation. Yes. Which made me want to like, nah, I'll retreat. I'm good. I'm good. This is too much. Who signed me up? Unsigned. So opt out. Yeah. So let's talk about that because
please.
I know, like I said, this last actually 2 years, I've had heartbreak, I've had loss, finance loss, like and before the end of this year, I was like, okay, I'm bringing Key Talks back, but it's going to be different because I want to come and I want to be authentic. Yes. And I want to talk about behind the glitz the glams and the pretty face, that there's a girl with a story who is literally kicking down doors, scratching at sometimes like, God, if you could just get me through the moment.
If you can just get me through the moment. Listen, because behind those heels, there's some hurt.
There's some hurt.
Okay. Seriously. So when you talk about like this year or even the two, really, because it does feel like that. I mean, I had a loss, like my little cousin passed away. I mean, he was young. Yeah. Not only that, I think the biggest thing was my divorce. And people don't talk about the grief in that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was married for 12 years, but we've known each other for 30 years.
Wow.
So that's half my life.
Yes.
Yeah. So you spend half your life with somebody. That's all you know.
Yeah.
And so I think at some point to step up and be like, well, what are my needs? What do I need? You know, because I don't think I knew that. You know, I think it was just like, get married, and if the person's just decent, all right. You know, and then it's like, well, what about your needs? And where are you going? And is this person elevating with you? You know, all those things. So I had to take a real look at my situation. And I'm like, I don't think this serves me. And I think that you go through so many steps before you finally get there.
To that point.
Because you don't want to leave.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't want to leave, you know?
Yeah. Even for my own divorce, I think it came to me realizing when I started to question those things about myself, like, who am I?
Oh.
Who am I without this title? Who am I if I'm not a mother? Or like what, like you said, what makes me happy? You know? And when I started to ask myself those questions, I realized I'm married because that's what they said to do.
Yes.
You know, like someone told me like, this is what a successful life looks like is get married, have kids, the picket white fence, and you should be happy.
Oh my goodness.
But I was miserable.
But you're not happy.
Yes.
So that was me. It was like team green all the time, right? I have 4 kids. So I was a mom to the fullest.
Yes.
I was a wife to the fullest. I was a business boss to the fullest. But yet emotionally, I was lost.
Dying.
Listen,
silently dying.
Crying. Internally dying. And it wasn't until I was in therapy of my own, and I was like sitting across from my therapist, and she was like, you had a great life, you know, your career, you got a great marriage. And then I was like, do I?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah.
And I think that's the first time I had to really sit and be like, is that true? Or is that the picture that I want?
Right. That yes. So that is so good, because I think especially for women, we create these pictures, right? That this is what my life looks like. And as long as I could put these pieces to make the picture, right? Make the picture. Because I know I have 3 sons, and in the picture, you all better be smiling, even though I done punched you, beat you.
Right before that, everything that happened, and we're like
So as long as the picture looks good, but I really think going in, ending 2024, it's time to really ask ourselves those questions. Like, does your inner match the picture?
Oh, that's good.
You know,
that's a key drop
right there. That's a key drop. Does your inner match the picture? Because it's time for us to be really happy for real.
Authentically happy.
Yes.
Your joy.
Even our children, because I know for me, like when I'm at my highest, when I'm at my best, it overflows.
It does.
You know?
Oh, it's abundance.
It's an abundance. But when you're like teeter-totting, you're not feeling that great, you're miserable, they get that too.
Absolutely.
And then you're like, okay, why are my kids tripping? Because you're tripping. You over here putting a facade on, and they hear you and dad arguing. Right. They hearing this.
Seeing you crying.
And you're like, well, just be happy. Like, no.
Yeah. No. I teach my kids. I feel like I have a great relationship with my kids. And of course, that took time. Right? Because I had to heal. They had a different version of their mother years ago. An unhealed version. Right?
Yes.
So that's different. You know, I had to go back, apologize, some therapy, some things that had to be done to rectify, you know, or restore rather.
Right.
And now I'm like, with my kids, I'm like, be you, be free. Because before I used to be like, I want them to do this. I want you to marry this person. I want you to look like this. I want you to, and I'm like, but is that who you really are? Yeah. And I saw them like fighting to be what they thought I wanted them to be. And I was like, how unfair is that? You know, I'm like, do whatever you want to do. You don't have to go to college like I did. You could find whatever path God lays for you, but do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so much freedom in that, because for me, when I really found that step or asked that question, and I was like, Oh, I got married because I didn't want to be a statistic. Oh, I got married because I wanted to prove to my brothers and my dad that I could be a wife, right? Or to people. When I freed myself from that, it was like, that's when coaching came. That's when purpose was birthed. So let's talk about once we identify where devastation has happened, how do we pick up the pieces so that we can walk in purpose and not allow the devastation to or to kill us?
Woo. Well, I think first things first, you got to sit in it and not just run from it.
Sitting in it. Ooh, that gets ugly. It's scary.
I'll put my Nikes on. I'm wearing my heels. Listen, because there has been days, especially after this divorce, I thought, like, you know what? This is gonna happen, and guess what? Life is gonna be great. I'll bounce right back. No, financially, it took me to the worst place. Do you hear me?
Yes.
The worst. So I'm somebody that's been working since I was like 15, 16, right? But to get on the verge of be at this high level, I've been on BET, I've done this, I've done that, but to get to this high level and then be like, where I'm gonna live? Because after my divorce, that was a real thing.
Yeah.
So I gotta go out here and try to find a place and I don't have any money. I gotta go out here and try to get a car and I don't have any money. You know, like it's real.
Yeah.
And you know, I had the idea of like, I don't want to hurt this person. I want them to be okay. But then I hurt myself. Because financially, there was nothing.
Took the loss.
Yep. I mean, I took the loss, you know. Yeah. And so I think it's that thing of I had to sit in it. And I was like, plenty of days, anger.
Yes.
Sadness. All the sadness. Because you go from this big, beautiful house, right? Even though it was sadness there.
Right. But it was still yours. And it was.
Right. That space, that beautiful home. And it's 6 of us. And we look like, you know, we're the only Black family on the block. You know, we look like this. Right. And so go from that and then have to sit in it and be like, okay, God, like, okay, when we gonna wrap this up?
Right.
Because I'm gonna cry 12 days.
Yes. Right. And then that's the other part too, is because we're like, okay, it's done now. But God's like, no, baby, there's some more. All this gotta come up.
All this residue.
Yeah.
And you're like, look, I'm done. And I need you to be done.
And he's like, nope, okay, one more layer.
Right. And I'm like, absolutely not. Get somebody else to do it.
Right. Unsign me up. I can't do it.
Out.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So that's where I was. I was like, I don't want to sit through this. Because I'm such a joyful person.
Yeah.
To have that anger was like, I don't like it.
And you know, it's so interesting you bring that up because that was something that was hard for me. And one of my prayers was like, God, just give me back my joy.
Man.
Like, I don't know how people, and this is, hopefully I don't offend anyone, but I don't know how you can stay depressed. It's a feeling for me when you have experienced joy and peace and real freedom. It was the worst feeling to sit in that space and have to be like, okay, am I depressed?
Yes.
I don't want to get up and get dressed.
Yes.
I am angry. I'm mad as hell.
I'm mad as hell.
Right. And it's like to sit in that space, that was very hard for me as well.
That's hard. And I'm glad you're being honest about that too, because I'm honest about everything I go through.
Yeah.
Right. And I know sometimes people are like, you don't have to. No, because I don't want you to think like, oh yeah, it was, you know, no.
Especially like you said, when you really want to heal, parts of that healing mean you have to sit in that and you have to face you.
You have to face you, because part of that was like, okay, well, in those 12 years, where were you in that when you knew year 1, year 6, whatever,
3 months in, 6 months.
How about before you walked down the aisle? You knew. You knew.
And I think that is a hard pill to swallow, because when I sat back and I was like, wait, there's no more fingers to point. No. Like all 10 of these fingers is pointing at me. Like, no, you was uncomfortable from the beginning. Yeah. That wasn't your type in the beginning.
It wasn't.
Like, that didn't align with you in the beginning. What were you thinking?
Where were you?
Where were you? And that's a question I kept asking me, like, where was I mentally?
Yes.
Where was I mentally that I accepted this facade and thought it was good?
Right. Or less than. Minimum breadcrumbs. I think for me, the reality during my therapy journey, as I was sitting in it, the first key we talked about was, I was like, the truth is, the people around me that hurt me the most were consistent. It was my expectations of what I wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And so every time I thought you were going to be different, or you're going to do this, you're going to do that. No, you were who you were.
Yeah.
But it was me wanting you to be
that's good.
a good person, or what I wanted you to be.
Yeah.
You were exactly who you are. Year 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good, because we talked about expectations last week with Jason on here, and he was saying that women, we always have a lot of expectations of people, instead of having real conversations or really using our words or really asking real questions, you know? And let's dismantle that this year, y'all. Like, let's dismantle the expectations.
Yeah.
And really believe people for who you are. Trust your instinct. Like, if that felt wrong,
come on,
it's wrong.
Wait, can we talk about that?
Come on. Yes.
Let the therapist side just come
in. Yes, please.
Your body is an alarm.
Ooh.
Okay. So it alerts you. So sometimes you do have to differentiate if it's just like a trauma response, or is this really alerting me that
something's not right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've had that. And lately now my thing has been so loud. I'm like, okay, can you calm down? I'm just trying to go to dinner with this person. Right. But my body's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You need to not, because this person is not what you need right now in this season.
And let me ask you, if you can kind of dive deeper into that. How do you know if it's a trauma response, right? Or if it's your instincts that are telling you something? Like,
that's so good. Okay. First of all, sit in it.
Okay.
Sit in it. And then I hope you have a good tribe or a therapist that you can bring it to process.
Therapist, and she's available.
That's right. But I process things with my friends too. Okay. Of like, let me just talk this out. Let me see. Because sometimes I think trauma response can come from fear, and you want to pull back. So I think when you think about trauma response, is this something connected to my childhood or that trauma thing?
Okay.
So that could be.
So something that's related to something in the past that you can identify.
Yeah.
Okay. So did y'all catch that key?
Yeah.
Differentiating from trauma bonds to your instinct. A lot of times trauma is related to something that happened before. And it's interesting because now that I'm dating, I've had that experience, and I'm like, ooh, I thought I dealt with that, but this is trauma popping up right here.
Yes.
I remember he did that, and now you did this, and I have to tell myself, like, okay, this is not that.
Yes.
Right? Like, this is not him.
That.
Yeah.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up for the people, because I want to say this too, even in my own dating now, my trauma response was, I'm about to pull out, and nobody did anything.
Girl, I'm like, I'm out. Yeah. That look pink. Too close to red. I gotta go.
Right.
I don't want
to. I know I done spent too much time over
healing over here.
Yeah. I'm spending a week over, and I remember I was talking to somebody, and I loved that this guy was authentic, right? Even though it didn't work out for other reasons, but I love at the moment, and he was like out of town or something. I was like, okay, you can just call me next week. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead, because I don't want to worry about why you going, what you do. Yeah.
And he was like, what you mean? Like, because I'm gone, we can't talk. And I was like, yeah, you could just. And then I was like, oh, that's a trauma response. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's so interesting too, because I'm a runner. Like, no. Because your peace feels so good. Yeah. But I don't even think that it's peace. I think that we get comfortable with not being disappointed. And so we don't want to be disappointed. So I could protect myself if I stay in this.
Self-preservation. Yes. After devastation.
Say that again.
Yes. Self-preservation after devastation. Because if this one thing didn't work, everything looks like it's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you start to believe the lies, the narrative of, well, this didn't work. I'm for sure not going to meet a good man on hinge.com.
Right.
Wherever you're at,
right.
But I think that's the thing, and I'm like, no, like, I think it's your belief system though.
And you know, that's a good point, because I really believe in order to truly heal, it also means you have to shift your paradigm.
Yes,
you have to, because what you believed before is not the same belief now. Right? You have to also release those things and let go of some of that belief system and those thinking patterns and all of those things.
Yes.
To be able to get this new version of you.
This new version of, and I like that you said that, because I feel like that's the key drop for number 2 is your belief system.
There it is, number 2.
Your belief system.
Yeah.
Because again, after something so devastating, you start to just believe like nothing good is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes too, and you got to silence it. There's people around you that'll get in your ear and be like, girl, you can't, you know, don't do that because that's not going to happen. And I'm like, no, that's your own fear.
Yes.
Don't put that on me.
Yes.
You know,
that is good to allow those projections.
Yes.
Yeah.
It might not work for you, but guess what? It could work for me.
It could work. And like you said, belief. And if whatever you believe, if you believe it could work, it's going to work. If you believe that it's not going to work, it's not going to work. Today I was in the gym and my trainer was like, go. Oh, you can do it. And I was like, I can't do it. He was like, yes, you can. I was like, okay, I can do it. You know, but the moment I changed my mindset and my belief about, can I lift this weight or not? That moment of belief made me say, oh, I could do this. Yeah. So it's really about changing your belief system.
Literally.
To just the word.
Just the word.
Because it was from can't to can. I can do this.
Right.
No. Yeah, you could do this.
And believing
that you could do it.
I think that's the thing too, of a part of hustle and a little bit of faith. Not a little bit, a lot of faith and some hustle to it too, because then you can't just be like, I believe. And then you sit down home and then you didn't even go on a date. So
it's like faith without works is dead.
Exactly.
You can have the faith, now put the work in it.
Yes.
The action to
exactly.
It.
Please say that again so everybody
faith
can get
without
it.
Works is dead. You got to put some action.
Please.
That's the key.
That's the key.
You have to put some action.
You have to put.
And you know what? Like, now that we're talking about dating, even with that, it's like you also have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, it takes courage. Let me tell you something. I was talking to women about this too, but even myself, I'm like, I'm not gonna date. I'm not this and that. And then it was like, well, where's this person about to find you? In your house? No. You know? So it takes courage, but it's like, it's not fair to you or anybody else to never love again.
Oh, say that. It is not fair.
Yeah, it is not fair to you or anybody else to never love again, because somebody is going to want and love and deserve the love you do have to give. And that was my prayer, because I'm such a loving, nurturing person.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to be cold, you know.
Yeah. Or I don't even know how to be cold.
Right. And I found myself trying to be a little bit. And I remember this person I was talking to, he was like, if that's who you are, why would you change?
I've heard that too.
And I was like, oh, that's right. You know, because I was like, yeah, are you this? You know, and I started
having a
people.
list and a list and checking the, oh, let me see.
No, you would never see me again. You know, like, and it was like, man, you done turned into
someone you're not.
Somebody you're not.
Yeah. And that's really, you guys, what trauma does. That's what devastation does.
Yes.
It turns you into someone that you're not. And, you know, even for me, like this last couple of months, I've really been intentional. Like, I want to be me. Like, I want to love. If it doesn't work, I remember reading this quote said that it is better to have love than have never loved at all.
Yep.
And so I'd rather have love, even if it's for a moment.
That's okay.
To feel it. Like, oh, I felt love. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
You know, because I know what hurt feels like.
Whoa.
I know what pain feels like. So if I could just taste the little bit of the goodness, I deserve that too.
You deserve that. I think that goes back to the belief that you deserve it.
Yeah.
You're worthy of it.
Yeah.
You know, and really believe in it. And like you say, for whatever time it's meant to be there, it does serve a purpose.
Yes.
So at first, when I was going into the thing of like, oh, this is frustrating, you know, with dating, and I'm like, and I found myself like, as the kids say now, like crashing out, like, you know, right? I'm like, oh, why, Lord? Like, and then I was like, no. Let me change this, because I'm getting closer to what I really want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I also can respect the fact that in each individual, there was something that I loved that I knew that now I like.
And that you were exposed to that you probably weren't exposed to before.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
And I became grateful. Like, oh, with this, okay, then I didn't know I like that.
Wait, I have a guilty, I felt myself like, oh, if I could take this from this person, if I could take this from this person.
Oh, you preaching to the choir. I already had Build-A-Bear. I was like,
in this one, God, if you could just put all this into this one person.
I was at Build-A-Bear. Like, you can do this and this, and then, oh, he's perfect.
Yes.
Right?
So, Lord, I'm looking for the Build-A-Bear.
Right.
The full bear. The full bear together.
Right.
But I think I wouldn't have known, like you said, talking about the gratitude of dating. I think I wouldn't have known that I like certain things had I not experienced certain people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been at home like, oh, it didn't work with my marriage. I'm never gonna.
You
didn't know you like day dates. You didn't know you like somebody that communicate. You know, all those things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So now I kind of shifted, you know, like I said, because before I was like,
Yes. But it is scary because, like you say, you've been married for so long, you get comfortable, and it's scary stepping into the unfamiliar. So, what would you say key number 3 is?
3, and I think could be the final key, but is to dream again.
I love that one.
Dream again. Yes. Pick up your purpose again and just go for it. Yeah. So even in the middle, like the beginning of my divorce, I was editing my book, right? I had wrote it. It had been sitting on the computer for probably about 2 years. I found myself doing other projects. I do a lot of other stuff. And I was like, oh, eventually, you know, like I'll get to it. But it's my first fiction. It's my 13th book, but it's my first fiction. Okay. So that takes another level. Yeah. And so I'm like, I don't know, you know, I could be a perfectionist. Used to, and be like, I like how you change that. Yeah, used to, not now, because the other thing that I was thinking about too, I'm like, Dr. Seuss has books. They're talking about green eggs and ham. Girl, what makes you think your book is not good? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's plenty of books that I've seen. It's like, really? And they sell. Yes, sell.
You just have to do it.
You just have to do it. Yeah, somebody's gonna love it, or guess what? I love it.
And I think it's good enough that people need to read it.
Yes. Yes. So I think you just got to do it. Yeah. So in the middle of the divorce, I was like trying to pay for editing, and it was like tough because I didn't have the money. Right. But the editor like worked with me. So I got the editing done, and then the divorce happened, and I just like, I'm not feeling it. You know, like I was like, I don't want to meet with people because you got to do press stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you really got to get back out there. And I was like, I don't have it. You know, like it was depression. Yeah. Yeah. And I just like, I don't want to do it. And then one day I went back to it and I was reading. I was like, girl, this book is good. Like, you know? Yeah. And then I was like, get it done. And I reached out to some friends. I said, can you hold me accountable?
Oh, that is so good.
Yes.
Listen, it is so important that you have a tribe of people that you can trust. Yes. That you can go to and say, hey, hold me accountable. I want to do this. Can I just shout out Dr. Elias over here? He's behind the scenes, but he has been a huge, huge impact for Coach Amber J. So let me give him a shout out while we're here and we're talking about support, because he's been that for me in a lot of this season of showing up again.
Yeah, you need to speak on that too. Yeah. Like people need to know it.
Yes.
How they play a part in your life. I had a tribe of women and they all had served, and it's not like huge, but to me it's huge, but they had served a different purpose. One, I was calling for this, one I called for that, you know, and other things. And so for 2 of them, I was like, hold me accountable. I need to get the cover done. Yeah. So by this date, I need you to make sure I have the cover done. I don't care what's going on in my life, how much I gotta hustle to pay for the cover. I just need for you to make sure I get it done. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I ended up doing it before they even reached out, because I was like, get it done.
Right. Because then now that you told them, it's like that inner you like, girl, you can't look like you done messed up.
Like, no, I'm not that girl.
You You're gonna know I handled this. Okay.
Right. And I went to them like, guess what is done? And I sent it. And I was like, no. And I had the vision for it for a long time. Because it's like a 90s nostalgic story. Okay. And I wanted like a cassette tape. Right? Okay. Because it's a duology. Yeah. So it's Black Hearts, her story, side A. And so then the second one, of course, is Black Hearts, side B, his story. And so I was like, oh, I want the cover to look like a cassette tape. And again, you know, people were like, I don't know if we can do that. Like, that might not, you know. And I was like, it could be done.
Yes.
It could be done.
Listen, you see that determination? That's what you need. Yeah.
Because I was seeing it so much. And I was like, if I'm seeing it,
it has to manifest. It has to
It
manifest.
was like random mail came to my house and it was a cassette tape. And I was like, this is the vision. Like I want. And so I kept seeing it. And I was like, I'm going to keep going until I find the person
that could do
it.
Wow.
Right.
I love that.
And so when I did it, I was like, oh, like this is my baby, you know? And so it started giving me that joy again of like, oh, these creative side.
Right. And I just, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm proud of you that you took the courage to show up in spite of all what you were going through, because you're just giving a tidbit of pieces of what you went through. But I know how that could feel to go through that. So thank you for showing up for you.
For
like,
that.
Congratulations.
Yes.
But again, going back to purpose and to the viewers, like, go back to that thing that you set down.
Yes.
You know, I know for me, and this is big, why I do vision boards and I say, write the vision, make it plain, because the vision of Coach Amber J, when things get discouraging, I pick up my original business plan. And I'm like, okay, why did I had this dream and this vision and I wrote it down and I'm able to go back to it. And it's like, oh, this is purpose. Yeah. I got to get back to these things. Like, I got to go back to this. So anything that you guys have, go pull out your old journals, your old notebooks, scrapbooks, whatever you used to write on, and go back and read those things so that they can remind you that you still got purpose. You still have things to do. And I believe that this is a season that God is completing things in us. And it's time that we're pushing this out, because people are suffering and they need the gift that's inside of you.
On you to release. They're waiting on you to release. It literally was, I think, a full circle moment for me. Was one, after divorce, I started a divorce support group. And so to see other women, you know, going through their own journey and have that safe space, right? And to tell them like, okay, we got to dream again. We got to believe again. But then another full circle moment was this week. I had a mentee. And so to see her do her thing with her nonprofit and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, girl, you know, like, and she
encouraged you.
Yes. Yeah. And so I like popped up on her, you know, to like surprise her, and she cried. But I needed that too.
Yes.
Yeah, I needed that too. And I'm like, all this time you want to go into hiding, you want to stop, you know, because I'm like, I could just be at home. Like, let me just
in my safe space. Right.
My safe space, pull that cover over your head. I don't want to do nothing, you know? And then I'm like, no, like, you see what's happening, you know, like that widespread of joy. And so I tell clients, as well as I tell myself sometimes, pick it up until it feels good again.
Yes.
Pick it up until it feels good again.
Yeah. My trainer said that, he was like, fall in love with that soreness, fall in love with the hurt. And I was like, I've never been a gym person, y'all, like ever. And recently, these last couple, I'm like, I miss the gym. I never thought I would say that. Like, it felt good to be in the gym, and I'm like, I can't, but I'm doing it. It is. So I love that you said that, because pick it up until it feels good. Fall in love with that soreness, fall in love with that pain, fall in love with whatever that is, and go back and dream. Maybe you didn't dream because you were too clouded. Maybe it's time to start dreaming again.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes, because the unfortunate thing is that there is no right time. Life is going to happen.
Life be life, y'all.
Yeah, like,
it ain't gonna stop.
It's going to happen, and life happens to me, as you can see. And I'm a therapist. It doesn't matter your occupation, your race, your age, none of that. It's going to happen. And I think sometimes when devastation happens, it puts a stop to what you
it puts
have
a stain
on.
Like
and then you're like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to live again. I don't want to love again. I don't want to soar again. It's like, that's so unfair.
Ooh, I love that you say that.
It is so unfair,
not only to you but to the people waiting on you. Because I feel for myself, what helped me was like, I can't stop because somebody's waiting on me. I didn't have enough of it in me to want to do it for me, but knowing that someone was waiting on me was enough to pull me out of it. So if you can't do it for yourself, find that thing that you can do it for, then it will start to pour back into you. You know what I mean?
See, I love that, because two things can be true at the same time. And I think that perspective is great, Because for me, I always did it for other people. This season, I was doing it for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to know and understand that you are worthy.
Yes.
You've seen pain, you know trauma. But what about joy? You know, and I want to see and love and have that more. You know, so it was me keep teaching myself like, okay, if you quit, you done been through all this and then you're never going to see joy?
Yes, that's
that
great
is
too.
Not
that's
fair.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
So girl, you're going to have a loving man. You're going to have this. You're going to have that house, that car, that, you know, all that.
Yes.
And then now to see it, I'm like, okay. Yeah, like,
I love that
you
too.
Deserve it.
I love that too, especially from a woman's point, because we do everything for everyone else.
Everybody.
We do. And even for myself, I'm like, this is a selfish era for me too.
Yes.
Like, if it doesn't feel good, I don't want to do it.
Listen, I'll opt out in a minute.
Right. Without guilt or without trying to explain, like,
or being like,
oh, I can't do this because of that. It's like, or even trying to spread myself so thin to show up for other people.
Yes.
Because that's what I've normally done, you know? And it's like, in this season, if I can do it, it's not that I don't love you. And even for myself to have to tell myself, like, girl, just because you didn't show up doesn't mean that you're not loving them or you're not supporting them. You just don't have it in you. It's okay.
Personal. But I think if you didn't sit in whatever you were going through, you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I was sitting in my stuff, and I'm like, man, I am crying at the bank. I'm crying in my car. You know, like
I can't keep these tears back.
I forgot there was a Chick-fil-A, and the guy was like, how you doing? I'm like, oh man, can I get a lemonade? And I was like, girl,
wow,
you're crying everywhere, you know. And I think in the midst of me doing it, I still had people like, hey, this is going on with me. And I'm like, I'm over here.
You don't see these tears.
Yeah, and you like, yeah, girl, you're gonna make it, but I got this and I need you. And I was like, too much of that is going on.
Yeah.
I am giving too much to others, that so much so at the point that y'all can't even see me.
Let's talk about that.
Please.
Let's talk about that, because I think that also opens up a door of that anger and that resentment too, that makes us not want to show up either.
Yes.
So can we be a little more empathetic and compassionate about people? And I don't even know, I'm sure it has to start with therapy, how to make a person empathetic and compassionate about certain things. But I really feel like people are so consumed with them that they can't see other people.
It's so unfair. And like I said, it wasn't until the divorce that I was like, this is a real thing. Like, people are like, I remember talking to somebody and I'm like crying, like I'm sobbing, and they're like, yeah, like, you'll be fine, like, you just gotta get over it. I'm like,
right, just get over it. I hate that word. Just get over it.
Dismissive to tell somebody to get over it, especially like with grief stuff. So grief could be divorce, death, loss, transition,
material things.
Yes,
because I've had the grief, material things.
I had that too. You know, and I'm like, that is so dismissive, because in the middle of all that I had going on, this is where I was really sobbing. It was like the dead of summer. You guys know Vegas heat.
Yes.
Okay. It's no joke.
No joke.
It's joke. Hot. So after the divorce, I had to take the car that I had before we got married.